subject, which probably nobody wants to talk about, but it's necessary, is how do you make sure as a professional that whatever you're using is compliant and safe and a company policy, so you don't get a surprise email or a calendar invite thrown on your calendar? Nobody likes those. Before we get into things, I really just, I promised myself when I built this course that anyone who would watch would be able to use this to their advantage. I don't want to be responsible, or I don't want you guys to get in trouble for anything that's not company approved. So I'm going to walk through this super quick. If you follow this, you should be good. So basically, I would highly recommend you do, if you take anything from this, is before you automate, know the company boundaries and policies. Check your company's AI policy. You might be able to search it in a registry. I would say on the safe side, probably validate with someone from IT what tools are approved for use, if any, and what company tools they already have that you can leverage. Usually this will be a part of your company onboarding, but if you've been at a company for a few years or a while and you haven't really understood their policy, you can always go to IT. You can also go to legal too, or HR, and they should be able to give you some information. The do's of that, to summarize it, is checking your AI policy, using approved platforms, anonymizing sensitive data, being able to verify the AI output accuracy. So, whenever you're creating a prompt or doing something in a generative platform like a Notebook LM or a Gemini or a GPT, don't just take what it gives you as gospel. Make sure to like, for example, if you're using Perplexity, you can check out the citations to make sure it's pulled from reputable sources. In Gemini, always make sure if you're drafting an email that it understands the context of why the email is being written and it's not being sent out and it doesn't make any sense, right? It's not in line with what you created. And sometimes it can hallucinate, not often, but really the key to that is making sure that you give the LLM like GPT clear context on the ask you're making and give it all the clear instructions it needs to, so it gives you a better output. And then also, it's important that you document your AI usage too. Some things I would not recommend you do is pasting internal data into public AI. Usually companies will have like some sort of enterprise agreement with GPT or Gemini. So then that is a good use case to use it. But when you're using your own AI or like a public AI, don't paste internal or customer data into it. Don't just assume that the AI output is correct. Always do an audit. Don't share confidential info with it, or bypass security protocols, or use AI for human judgment. Really, you just want to help it do all of the grunt work and mundane work that is, takes up a lot of time in your job. But the bottom line here is compliance protects you and your company. When in doubt, consult IT or legal. Just don't go rogue on your own. Let's move forward to kind of what the AI landscape is out there today and the tools you need to know about. Really think about this as, kind of your essential toolkit. What a note taker is going to be able to do, like an Otter.ai or Firefly, is that it can capture and transcribe meetings automatically in real time. And then typically what they can do afterwards is that they can not only give you a full summary of the conversations, but it can give you action items, next steps. If there were any sort of objections or hands raised about concerns during a conversation, it can do sentiment analysis as well. It's just great for understanding what happened in a conversation in the past. And there's some pretty cool things that you can do with it to generate content out of a discovery meeting that I'll be showing later. Let's talk about research too. So the two research tools I have are Perplexity and Notebook LM. This is really where you can find, organize, and synthesize information with citations included for all of your generative outputs. Perplexity is especially good for their deep research feature, to where pretty much if you wanted to go pull up you wanted to find out everything about a JP Morgan Chase, we'll be talking about them a lot in this conversation, as a fictitious customer, you could go into Perplexity, use the deep research tool, and you could say, hey, I have a meeting with JP Morgan Chase. Can you pull all of their 10Ks, their annual reports, everything in the news about them, and help me understand what their priorities are? That's going to help you have a way better conversation. And instead of you having to go hunt that down on your own, you can have a tool like Perplexity. Now, Notebook LM is really interesting, and I think it's a slept-on tool. Basically, what you can do is that you can create your own little miniature company databases for specific topics. Like, for example, if you want to create a Notebook LM for all the conversations and all the content you've shared with the customer, you can use that as a point of reference instead of digging through all of your Google Drives or Google Documents and PowerPoint slides. You can have everything in one area. You can prompt Notebook LM and ask it questions about any of your past conversations or content that's been shared with them. Really clutch tool. I'm going to show you that. And then the generative side, what we'll be focusing a lot on today is ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude. Really, this is for writing, summarizing, brainstorming, and creating content. It's the most versatile. It's what's the most hot right now, right? Everybody knows about it. Then you also have enterprise tools. Now, these are the tools that your company would give you that are a little bit more robust when I was talking about autonomous use cases before. And that's going to be your Microsoft Copilot, your Salesforce Einstein or Agentforce, solutions like Decagon or point solutions in the AI field. That's a whole different topic. I won't get into that. But basically, these are secure tools that are integrated with your company data and that are IT approved. And then the last part you have is enterprise search. Now, enterprise search is really cool. It's something that came out in the last 2 years. And the top two providers are Slack AI and Glean. And basically what enterprise search is that inside of a console that they provide you, like a pop-up. For Slack, it's just like where you manage all your messages. And then Glean, it's like a collaboration hub. Basically, you can go into a search bar and search and summarize all internal company data across all systems as long as they're integrated. So say if you wanted to find a bunch of relevant case studies in financial services, instead of tracking that down in a system like Atlassian, you can go and search it in the search bar and it'll give you a summary of all of it and all the citations. So really easy access to company data. Pro tip here though, is I wouldn't try to boil the ocean with all these AI tools. I would master 2 or 3 tools deeply rather than dabbling in a bunch of different ones. A jack of all trades is the master of none. So make sure you're learning these tools one at a time and you're doing them in tranches of 2 or 3 rather than just trying to boil the ocean. You're going to learn nothing. You're going to get overwhelmed. And then that is what's going to give you real productivity gains. Let's talk about my AI workflow and how I leverage it daily. Usually what kicks off my AI workflow, this is how I leverage it, is some sort of meeting recording, right? The transcription I was telling you about with Otter AI, where it gives me next steps. It has the full transcription. And basically what I can use this as is if I have follow-ups or deliverables with a client, I can use the content in the transcript and the follow-up as a good starter to start to generate emails or, make a point of view, which is like, a document that just kind of, say we had a discovery call with the clients, the next call is to really talk about how we can help them. I can create a point of view based on their transcript grounded in my company data. Also, another thing, that I use pretty often are Notebook LM and Perplexity. Notebook LM I really use as my central data repository for all of my customer interactions and content that I shared with them. And then also you can do searches of, you can ask Notebook LM to find you reputable sources on the web when you do a feature called data search for external sources. So pretty much you could do grounded research with citations. And then Perplexity, I was talking a little bit about it before. Perplexity is pretty much a deep research tool online that's really good for finding things like 10Ks, annual reports about companies, press releases, pretty much everything you need to know about a customer or a company before you hop on a call with them or you reach out to them. Great tool for prospecting, narrow down and focus prospecting and highly tailored. And then it's also great for just understanding, things better. Like, if you're meeting with a customer, it helps you prep for a meeting. Summarizing takeaways, right? So out of both Otter AI and then, GPT, I'm able to take large amounts of text and I'm able to quickly understand what that text was about, extract action items from it and decisions. Drafting a recap email through Gemini or a GPT, this generates a professional follow-up. Instead of me creating that, I can tell it how to create the email and it'll make me a professional facing email. Grounding that data, really creating those searchable knowledge bases through Notebook LM and then also generating content through GPT and Gemini. You can use it to help you create presentations, reports, documents, emails, all that kind of stuff. And then the last part is the most important. It's reviewing and refining. Always make sure that you review and you refine your content. There's certain systems like Notebook LM that isn't very good at content generation. It's just good at sourcing information. You're going to want to take that and then throw it into something like a GPT or a Gemini and refine it so that it's customer facing. And it's also, it's easier to read through and understand and better organized. And then also reviewing it, auditing all of the work that AI does to make sure it's accurate. Sometimes it gets things wrong. It gets things wrong for me every day. And if I didn't check that, that might cause me some credibility with a customer or a coworker. And the work that used to take me an hour and a half probably takes me about 25 minutes now. Streamlining this is really going to take away that grunt work, and it's going to free up that time for creative direction, review, brainstorming, all the things that we're meant to think about. So let's jump to the